is suing. Joining me now is Neera Tanden, who served as director of President Biden's Domestic Policy Council. Neera, it is so good to see you.
Great to be back.
So answer my question for me, because I was not aware that Elon Musk could fire federal employees.
I think all of this is really legally dubious, and I would say to federal employees that if you really think that Donald Trump is good for a payment out to you, you should just look at the people who he's basically conned in the past.
The state of New York, E. Jean Carroll, most of his contractors, all the contractors who built his buildings.
Hundreds of businesses
he never pays.
And years. And, I mean, it is the case that Congress has to appropriate funds. There's no appropriation right now for these kinds of payouts. They don't have the flexibility to do these things. So I think this is the product of people who don't know how the government runs. I think maybe it's Elon Musk who thinks this is just another form of Twitter. But actually, when the government doesn't have the people it needs to deliver services, when we don't have people who know what to do with the drug shortage or what to do with the hurricane, you know, people's lives are at stake. And I think that is really part and parcel of the response you've seen over the last 2 days on this OMB memo. Because what all these people playing government are forgetting is that people's lives are at stake. Veterans, people on Medicare, seniors who need Meals on Wheels. These are all people who rely on a government functioning.
Yeah, let's play with a couple of the governors. These are 3 governors who've responded to the freeze.
Donald Trump's reckless action cut off funding to law enforcement, farmers, schools, childcare, veterans, and health care. While he was out golfing, he threw the country into crisis.
I can tell you that when federal funds that are meant to serve the most vulnerable Oregonians are suspended or unavailable, that has impact on Oregonians, and it's a dereliction of the federal government's duty to protect Americans.
Donald Trump's administration is lying to you. The White House's attempt to walk back what they did today does not match what we saw on the ground.
2 points on this. The governors actually know that when their spokesperson says, no, this isn't affecting individual payments, they're like, yeah, it is. We're in the States. We're experiencing the Medicaid site went down. That doesn't feel coincidental. And I think for the Trump people, they're very red-pilled. So they think, well, everybody hates welfare, and welfare is a bunch of black people. It's only going to hurt blacks. So we can do it. 63% of those who get SNAP benefits, what used to be called food stamps, are white. 63% white, non-Hispanic, 40%, black, 27%, native-born, 89%. It's not undocumented people. It's native-born people. And so when they did this, it set off a flurry of panic. And you could just see it online. People were posting TikToks of themselves hyperventilating, worrying they weren't going to get their benefits. Then they rescinded it, seemingly under public pressure. Then Carolyn Levitt, who is their spokesperson, tweeted out that the OMB directive is gone, but the freeze still remains. It's confusing, but apparently now there's been what is going on? Because it felt like they rescinded it to stop the lawsuits by these states.
But that didn't work because the judge actually looked at her tweet. One of the judges looked at her tweet and then implemented a temporary restraining order based on her tweet. So, I mean, it's not clear to me that this has been like a grandmaster chess strategy. But I think the truth is that actually this OMB memo is a dry run because essentially these are programs, you know, this whole discussion about these programs don't go to individuals. If the federal government does not pay the Meals on Wheels provider, that cuts off meals to seniors who need Meals on Wheels. Now, I don't think this is a very complicated concept, but apparently it's a slightly complicated concept for the White House. But having said that, the truth is these are cuts to programs across the government. And I think it just is a demonstration of how much opposition there is, because we did see in the last 24 hours, this is the first time they've actually even had to backtrack at all.
Other than Pete Hicks, I mean, other than Matt Gaetz.
Other than Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
But I think what's really important to remember is that the big fight is in front of us.
Yeah.
Because with their reconciliation plan, with their budget plan, what they want to do is slash all these programs, particularly Medicaid.
That's right.
Slash Medicaid in order to give Elon Musk and all those guys sitting with the president last week giant tax cuts at the expense of people's health care. And it's really important to remember, the people who rely on Medicaid, southern states over-rely on Medicaid versus red states over-rely on Medicaid expansion versus blue states.
That's right.
The ACA premium tax credits go disproportionately to rural communities.
Yep.
And so, I think the big question is what's going to happen with that debate.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a critical question, but I actually take a lot of heart that people have been calling members of Congress because they know that harm is on the table to people. Police officers, veterans, healthcare, hospitals. When you slash the Medicaid program, you're destroying the healthcare infrastructure in rural America more than urban.
More than urban. And by the way, I will note that the poorest states and the states that actually receive more money from the federal government than they give tend to be red states: Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee. That's why their Republicans in those states are like, whoa, this is going to hurt us.
In those states, the federal government is paying 80-90%
of their
Medicaid.
Budget.
Yes.
And by the way, this is very unpopular. This part of it, I just want to show the difference here. A lot of what Trump has done is very unpopular. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico, 70% oppose that. Pardoning January 6th protest insurrectionists, 62% oppose that. New tariff, 60% oppose it. Ending birthright citizenship, 60% nearly oppose it. New tariff, people are opposed, 55%. Closing DEI offices, 51% opposed. Supporting women and minorities, 59%. But this stuff about getting rid of the federal government is more 50-50. And I think it's because people don't necessarily know what people in the federal government do. But once it kicks in, it feels like this will go south the other way. So I think they are doing entertainments. The USDA Inspector General was escorted out of the building today for not doing the purge. Like, they're doing a lot of theatrically cruel things to individuals to frighten federal employees maybe into leaving, because they also can't fire 50,000 federal employees he promised.
I think there's a lot of intimidation going on, and you are seeing amongst certain people, certain groups, that they're sort of, obeying in advance.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important is to remember that Donald Trump today is not some super popular figure. There's a poll that came out today that said he has more opposition than he has support. He wants to claim a gigantic mandate, that he's some Reagan-esque figure, but his policies, these policies, no one expected that we would lose tens of millions of people's health care in voting for Trump. He never made that clear. And he is doing what I think is a giant bait and switch on these issues, where he has a lot of dramatics around things like Greenland, while he basically, on a golf course with members of Congress, plot to take away health care from trillions of people from red states and blue states.
While giving the super rich huge permanent tax cuts, and they know that they could never get rid of SNAP and Meals on Wheels in a bill that would pass. So they're trying to sneak it in through the back door, and y'all are going to pay the price, because those tariffs, you pay that. So they're going to try to make the regular people pay while the rich get all the tax cuts. Neera Tanden, my friend, thank you very much. We're going to keep talking about this.